morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world, welcome. And thank you so very much for being here with us today. I am the creator, the inventor, the founder, the chief gratitude officer, the person leading the mission and the movement of Positive Prime Technology. Yes, it's my company. And I'm here to serve you for the next couple of minutes. I'm all yours. What I'd love for you to do is just take some nice big deep breaths and see if you can connect to source energy. And ask your higher self, if there was one thing I could ask him right now, what would it be? And what's the intention of asking that question? And how about we ask that my connection to source actually allows me in a very intuitive way to provide the answers or the solutions or the suggestions that might be in your very best interests at this moment in time, given who we all are in this space. And maybe what you could also do is just share a whole heap of love with everybody else here in this group. So we're connected in time and space right now. From a quantum perspective, that's extraordinarily beautiful. We actually amplify energy when we're together. When we're together, we're amplifying the energy. We're making it much more potent. I'm sure you already knew that. And so our intentions in this space, they carry more weight. The probability or the likelihood for the solutions that you need right now to be the right thing for you to hear and for you to experience and for you to actually know, the probability really dramatically increases when you're in a group, when you're in a circle. So let's hope for everybody who's here that they're here for the right reasons. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about Positive Prime. It's a little bit like, oh, welcome. We're a great group of people and we really care. We really care about you and each other. We're here to help uplift each other. We're here to support and encourage each other. It's a beautiful opportunity for you to feel like you are really nurtured, and in the true sense that Positive Prime is an exercise or an activity with really effective, clinically evaluated techniques embedded into the formula. What happens is that when we personalize our Positive Prime sessions, particularly with images that we're truly grateful for, that represent what we appreciate in life, who we appreciate, and we are actually connected to why we appreciate these things or these people or these experiences that we've had or the lessons that we've learned. When we upload our personal photographs into a Positive Prime session, there are lots of extraordinary reasons why we do that. But most important for you to know is that it plants seeds in your other than consciousness in the gap. There are an enormous variety of transformational or change facilitated techniques or exercises or activities that you can actually do. Everything from writing in a gratitude journal or journaling, actually, everything from deep breathing exercises, from ecstatic dance, from improv to walking along the beach, grounding yourself in nature. There are 1,001 things that we can all do to help us to move in the directions that we need to or want to in order to achieve our dreams and our heart's desires and accomplish the goals that we're setting ourselves for, right? So what's fascinating is that most of the methods thus far haven't allowed the average normal person like you and me to access the gap in the other than consciousness, because we as human beings, we usually resist or we reject anything that's a change. And the reason why we do that is because we're human. So we as human beings are wired from the reptilian brain point of view. We're wired to actually protect ourselves from a survival instinct point of view. So this happens in pre-conscious processing, way beyond anything that you can actually control with your conscious mind or with your ability to make decisions in your executive functioning part of your brain. So we need to make familiar the unfamiliar. And I'm sure you all know this, but let me repeat it for you. Any change that you desire is from where you're at now to where you want to go, and it's actually unfamiliar to your nervous system. So any improvement, any advancement, any development, any growth, any change, any transformation, any transmutation, any of all of that you actually want for yourself requires that you literally work with this aspect of yourself that resists and rejects change because it's unfamiliar. You all know this. I know that you know this as a core and a cellular level, right? So when we were all, let's imagine back in the caveman days, if something was approaching us and we didn't know what it was, i.e. it was something that we didn't actually really understand and we weren't comfortable with and we weren't familiar with it, because with familiarity comes comfort. What actually happened is we had to actually get ready to fight it, flee from it, or we were frozen in fear. And that's actually the way that our brains and our bodies and this connection between our mindset and our heart set, that's the way that it works in order to keep us alive. And the greatest priority every day, all day, is that we live. We live. Now, those of you who are relatively new to our community may or may not know that I actually have a cardiac pacemaker, and I'm young and fit and beautiful and fabulous and gorgeous. And when they put me into a functional MRI, cardiac MRI machine, they actually found that there was nothing wrong with my heart from a structural point of view or a functional point of view or an electronic point of view. Nothing. My heart's perfect. So why do I have a cardiac pacemaker? Because there was something that was causing my heart to stop. Completely stop, and I'd go completely unconscious. And I had 6 of these episodes, and some of them actually resulted in some pretty significant falls. One of them, I was actually driving a motor vehicle on my own in the car. I went completely unconscious whilst driving, and I had a head-on collision with some trees. I survived, clearly, and I am extraordinarily lucky because I'm not in a wheelchair. And guess what? All of a sudden, my heart started beating again, but I did and have had those near-death experiences 6 times. And there's some things that I know. I really do know. And I had to actually come back, really, and pour myself into Positive Prime for all of you. That's one of my knowings. My other knowing is that you and I, all of us, every single one of us, we are loved, we are loving, and we are lovable, just as we are right here and right now. And sometimes our limiting beliefs or our paradigms actually keep us stuck. And so Positive Prime is a tool that you can use so that you can free yourself. Interestingly enough, it is at the moment the most powerful way on the planet, with the most science and art and spirituality all baked into the formula, that allows you to access your other than consciousness, which is to literally bypass the conscious critical judgment factors of your prefrontal cortex that actually will allow the unfamiliar to become familiar and your new reality. It is the fastest way for you to bring about really exciting change for yourself that will be enduring, and that the process will be elegant and graceful. All right, so that's enough of me as my little rant to begin with. I hope that that's been helpful. Would you like me to guide you around the dashboard so that you can get the most out of Positive Prime? Would that be helpful? Let me know in the chat. This is your opportunity. Woohoo! So, Laura, I can see that you're around the corner from Linda. Linda, you're in St. Louis? St. Louis. See, in Australia, we would say St. Louis. You have authored a session. It is a beautiful session. In fact, Linda, if you're here, you could unmute yourself and you could do the shortest, sharpest, most concise and succinct, highest vibe, punchy promo for your own session. You could tell everybody what motivated you to create it, what's your intention for the people who view it, and what do you hope that they will accomplish or achieve as a result of actually watching your session.
I'm here. It's Linda. Can you hear me?
Perfectly.
Yeah, good. You know, in short, what my session is about, honestly, is for beginners. I am in an environment where I know a lot of people don't understand all of this, and I've been learning it for many years under Dana Wilde. She's the one that introduced me to you, Kim. And so I felt like I needed to start with something that just basically said you have to start with mindset because it matters most. That's why I titled it that way. And I've had many people, you know, dive into it and give me a lot of compliments that they like my simple statements and that it's working for them. So, and I loved creating it. I loved picking the music for it. So, I still get excited every time I see it. And of course it's loaded with my personal photos. So that boosts, you know, that dopamine hit as well. So, and I have to just share this. I do Positive Prime every morning in my hot tub here in St. Louis. And even though it's, you know, very hot sometimes here, it's just my way of, it's open under the sky, and I really feel connected to God and source and universe and my mind and all of you. And it's just a big turn on. So thank you for creating this awesome tool, Kim.
Oh, thank you, Linda, and thank you for being out there sharing it. I can actually see that we've got another Positive Prime author here in the audience, Patty Crummer, so I'll ask her to come out in a moment. But before we move on, let me just show everybody, right, what it means once you're in the session. Let's just say you just realize that that lady's name is Linda. It's actually Linda Camden. And so here in the search area, right in the top, you can actually just put in Linda. And if there's a session by a woman whose name is Linda, it will show up for you. So you can click it. And then what you can actually do is come and read a little bit more about it. And then you can actually go start playing the session. Awesome idea. If you're brand new here, these are some of the other things you might really want to know. Let's just say that you are a team leader, or that you're a manager of people, or in fact, you're a parent and you're leading from a role modeling perspective, the people in your home, could be your children. Well, you might actually just want to watch today, and maybe it's never occurred to you before, this particular session by Laura Scott. Laura Scott is an executive coach. She's very well respected. She's got a great best-selling book. And let's just say you start playing the session. It will load. It will ask you how you're feeling. It's really important that you do this because we have protected the data and it's de-identified. So it's actually private and confidential, but we're gathering real intelligence so that we know what kinds of content and experiences that are going to be useful for all of you, our subscribers, over the long haul. So be honest and actually just think about, how are you actually feeling right now? Well, right now, I'm feeling very happy that I'm here with all of you. I know that I can be even happier though. So I'm going to drop into the Positive Prime session. Now, let's just say I absolutely love this one. I can click the heart, right? I'm actually going to mute the music just so that you can hear me. And so this is all as I hover over the navigational bar inside this player. Now, this proprietary player, it's unique, it's revolutionary, it's absolutely phenomenal. I'm going to explain to you some of the real highlights about how and why this particular session works. Yes, it is better on full screen, so you can go to full screen. And you're going to see a range of photographs. In fact, there are over 1,000 frames, 800 images, and about 200 statements. I'll explain to you a little bit about our formula for the actual images that you will see, because they're very carefully curated. I'll also explain why you'll see certain words and the way that they're phrased inside each of these sessions. But what I want you to know is, let's just say I've decided this is one of my favorites, and I would actually like to focus on this as a theme or a topic over the next month or two or week or two, it will actually appear over here in My Sessions. Can you see there's actually a navigational option down the left-hand side here in My Sessions? Your Leadership Coach by Laura Scott would actually appear here in My Sessions. So let me just quickly explain a little bit about what is so special about our formula. Well, you're going to see images with really broad smiles. And when your eyes actually see a smile, the retina in your eyes processes that smile and sends a message to your mirror neurons in your brain. And then they actually send a message through to your endocrine system. So hormonally, you start to produce more dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, these things called neurotransmitters and endorphins that actually make you healthier, more robust, more tenacious, give you more resilience, courage, and actually help you to weather life's storms. It actually also improves your immune system. There's a lot that's healthy about watching a Positive Prime session for a minimum of a couple of times a day. So Duchenne smiles, that's the scientific label that they give to these types of smiles, are very genuine and sincere. And guess what? Your actual entire body, this beingness of you know when you've seen a Duchenne smile, and this reaction is automatic. It happens in an instant, a millifraction of a second. It's so fast, the way that your body reacts to these images. What are some of the other images that you'll see? Well, you'll see certain types of images that have certain colors and certain shapes, because we know that actually changes the way that you're experiencing the world. It changes your mood. You will feel more joyful if you actually see brighter colors and round shapes. So we're deliberate about the round shapes that we actually have in these photographs and the way that we actually put together this collection for you. You'll also see there's lots of photographs that are intended to be awe-inspiring. They're of spectacular sceneries, sunsets, sunrises, and you'll also see photographs with lots of green tree canopy. So green tree canopy, we actually know from some research that was done at the University of California, San Francisco, it actually does impact cytokine production. And before COVID, nobody had ever really heard of this protein involved in the immune system functioning called a cytokine. Suffice to say that we can actually improve your immune functioning just by showing you photographs of green trees. Did you know that? Yes, the photograph needs to have 70% of the photograph needs to be the green trees. And there are lots of photographs in each and every single one of our sessions. So in each and every single piece of content, every subject, every theme by every single one of the authors, there is a formula for the types of photographs that we show you and the numbers of photographs we show you. We show you at least 1,000 photographs per session because you have at least 50,000 thoughts a day. That's what the science basically says. And the science also says that at least 50 to 80% of those thoughts are actually similar thoughts that you had yesterday because you're on autopilot repeat. And some of that is repeating all of these very critical things that you say to yourself. You're at war with yourself as your brain is actually repeating these patterns that are quite mean to you. We have these critical parts of ourselves, these inner voices, and they're not exactly like the kindest, most caring cheerleader in your life. You can be very harsh on yourself, and I'm sure that you all recognize that. But here's the beautiful thing about Positive Prime. If you watch quite a lot of sessions every single day for a couple of weeks and then a couple of months, you will actually start to notice a really significant shift in your inner talk, in the monkey mind. It'll actually start to be more playful. It'll be more empowering. It'll actually benefit you and be to your advantage. Alrighty, so you're going to see lots of words in a Positive Prime session. A Positive Prime session has lots of I am statements, you are statements, affirmations, questions. When you ask yourself really good quality questions, you get much better quality answers. And so it's best to ask yourself, what's going well today? What has gone well today? Which presupposes something's actually gone well. Your brain is so marvelous. Your mind is extraordinary. It will go off in search of evidence to prove that you are right and to answer the questions that you are actually asking of yourself. Alrighty. So if you say to yourself, what has gone well today? Instead of, why doesn't anything ever go well for me? Or why does everything seem to work out for other people but not me? If you ask yourself those kinds of questions, I promise you're going to get answers that, quite frankly, you don't want reinforced inside your mind, right? They don't serve you. And so a positive prime session will allow you to actually read statements. Now, here's the beautiful thing about pre-conscious processing. You do not need to be able to read the statements in order for you to actually know, and for you to comprehend, and for you to retain, and for you to recall, right? You do not need to know. Here's the fascinating thing for all of you to know. We have 11 million bits of information coming at us, and we can actually attenuate to, we can be paying attention to about 40 bits of information. Sean Acor's very famous for saying it's like seeing the spectacularly fine print on a snowflake in the middle of a blizzard. Well, you are in control of what are the 40 bits of information out of the 11 billion bits of information, 11 million bits of information that you're actually being exposed to, or your stimuli picking up. Your senses are heightened by the way that you're actually conditioned. I'm going to actually stop here for 1 second and go and show you. There's a page called positiveprime.com/happiness/. I'm going to put that into the chat for all of you, okay? And so interestingly enough, on this particular page, the man that I just mentioned, Sean Acor, he actually is featured here. If only you really knew who Sean Acor is, if you don't already, you would be completely enamored like I am. He has written the most fantastic books. They're so important. I recommend that you read them. He has one of the most successful TED Talks ever in the history of TED Talks. We're talking tens and tens and tens of millions of people have either seen it on the TED platform and or on YouTube and or in various other environments where it might actually be hosted inside an intranet in a learning management system inside a large corporation. And then you could actually read or listen to what Positive Prime is to Sean and what Sean thinks of Positive Prime. And there's a very interesting story because he actually organized the efficacy research on, does Positive Prime actually work, and does it work within 3 minutes, and is the effect going to last longer than 6 to 8 hours? Is it going to have a long-term effect from a scientific point of view? And the reason why he did that was because he was very generous, and he actually included a Positive Prime session as an intervention inside his happiness course that he did with the Oprah Winfrey Network. An extraordinary human being. I would really recommend that you go to that particular link if you haven't already, and absolutely do watch Sean's TED Talk. Listen to what he says about Positive Prime, go and do a little bit of research about him, and absolutely make sure that you read the research statement. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing there for a moment. And as I mentioned just before, I think that Patty Krummer is still here in the audience. I can't see while I'm screen sharing all of you and everything that's going on in the chat and in the audience. But what I want you to know is that is Patty there? Unmute yourself, Patty, and come on out.
Yes, I'm here. So
okay, awesome.
Everyone.
All righty. So, Patty, share with everybody what your session is, what your intention was, and let's try to motivate everybody to go watch it today.
All right. So yeah, my name is Patty, and I've been a passionate Patty in this community for about 6 years. And my session is really a passionate session called the Mosaic Effect. And it's meant to help each one to empower themselves to live their greatest, best, and most unique life, and express your own gifts and talents that, of course, are the only gifts and talents that you can present, and no one else presents them except for you. So when you watch a Mosaic Effect session, it will make you feel that you have great potential and that possibilities are yours, and that it is a global community of individual, unique, and amazing people who are here to strive and achieve their best. So that's what my session is about, and we can watch it for a minute and or just think about that and how you show up being that. And that was really my intention, to help each person to feel their greatest potential and know they absolutely have that potential within them. That's it.
That's awesome, Patty. Thank you. Guess what? I just went back to the dashboard and I put your name in, Pattie, P-A-T-T-I-E, and of course it came up, see, simple. And guess what? We found the mosaic effect. And to that point, let's watch a little minute of it. And what I really, am I stressed? Yeah, I'm stressed because we don't have enough time together. We never do. I want you to notice that you'll see you are statements. And one of the reasons why you'll see you are or you're in a positive prime session is actually because, and this is really interesting for you to listen to if you're into affirmations, we actually developed our identity and our beliefs about ourselves and whether we could actually really triumph in life and whether we could thrive and flourish by the people in our lives that we admired and we respected and we held in authority. And when they said, you know what, Kim, you are amazing, or you are kind, or you are so generous, or you're clever, and you could actually write some other things in the chat and I'll read them out. So if you've got a you are that you wish that you had heard, then let's say that. And interestingly enough, your brain already knows and your mind already knows to latch onto you are statements. They're much more potent and powerful than I am statements, alrighty? Because of the way that we developed as children and because of the way that we interact as social beings in these relationships that we have with people we really like, our friends, our colleagues, our lovers, and so forth. Alrighty, so the you are statements that you see in these sessions, they are critical and they're necessary to help you transform in a much faster way. Okay, so what are some of the you are statements that you wish that you had have heard when you were a child? And here's the next absolutely exquisite aspect of what we do here at Positive Prime in this particular software is that you could go to Canva or anything else that you like, even a PowerPoint software, and you could create a slide and you could write you are. Now, what if you wanted to really, really believe about yourself with such confidence that you are excellent with money? You are phenomenal as somebody who saves. You're special, you're unique, all right? You are wanted. Thank you, Jane. You are smart, you are beautiful, you are loved. Thank you, Laura. That's awesome. The you are exquisite. I love that. I absolutely love that. The you are statements that you see inside a Positive Prime session, you are worthy, you are talented. They are essential. They're a must. Okay, so many people on their personal development and self-improvement journey have actually heard about I am statements. You are statements are actually where it's at. And in every single Positive Prime session, you will see a range of you are statements. And let me just quickly talk about the speed. So when you hover over a Positive Prime session, righty, you can see there's slower or faster. The more slowly you go, the more you honor the fact that we as human beings like to be into control. We have this insatiable appetite to be right. It's the way that we were actually formed. We need another hour to actually talk about this insatiable appetite that we have to be right, to be correct, to be accurate. Actually, it links into what I was talking about before, when we were cave men and women, and we actually saw something advancing towards us that may or may not have been an animal because we had no reference for it. We didn't know if that thing was going to kill us and end our life. And so we had to actually be in fear of it. We had to have this reaction, this flight. We had to get ready. All of the adrenaline, all of the hormones in our muscles had to get fired up so that we could flee. Or we were totally completely frozen because we had to pretend like we were a tree so that maybe we didn't draw attention. Or we actually had to fight it. We literally had to fight it. So interestingly enough, Being right, yes, Jordan, is about survival. We had to be right. Is this thing going to kill us or not? And so it is really one of our most basic and fundamental ways that we operate. Now, there are some beautiful people like Dr. Wayne Dyer who made, some statements very famous, like, it's better to be kind than right. And absolutely, it is better. But you know what? When we're stressed, particularly in the times that we're living in now, often we don't have the luxury of being calm enough and at peace enough to actually not be in that state where our amygdala in our brain has completely hijacked us, and it is keeping us in this freeze, flight, or fright or fight mode. Okay. And so a lot of us don't actually have the resources that we can recruit that allow us to actually make better quality decisions faster. So the science actually tells us that if you are positively primed, you make more accurate decisions more quickly. There's an enormous number of scientific research studies on this particular aspect of being positively primed. By the way, there are lots of positive primes out there. Breathing deeply in through your nose and out through your mouth is a positive prime. Dancing, listening to great music is a positive prime. It's just that a lot of positive prime exercises or activities haven't been scientifically proven, like one of our sessions, where the effects will actually last up to 6 to 8 hours. There's a long-term effect. So yes, you could actually eat sugar and it will positively prime you. It actually changes the way that your brain works, but it's not in your best interest. It's not actually cool for you to be eating a lot of sugar these days. And we already know that Alzheimer's is actually considered diabetes 3. It's actually considered a form of disintegration of the brain because of sugar being one of the factors. I could go on and on and on and on and on about all of that. So yes, if you consume sugar, it will positively prime you. However, you'll get a quick high and a very deep low, and there is nothing beneficial or advantageous in that will last 6 to 8 hours. And yet a positive prime session will, and it's been researched and proven so that we can actually make that statement, right? So it is the healthiest option for you at the moment in the world for you to be in a positively prime state. Alrighty, so we have this insatiable appetite to be right. We absolutely needed to do that for survival. And oftentimes we can't be kind because our amygdala has actually hijacked our nervous system. Okay, so sometimes people can't actually respond the way that they would prefer to if they were in a state of being positively primed. And so if this speaks to you and you're actually noticing some ugly reactions from people, what you can assume is that they are not in a state of being positively primed. They're actually in a state of being negatively primed. What is negatively priming in this day and age? What do we know from the science? Well, what we know is that when you scroll through social media and you see everybody else's nastiness, it actually negatively primes you. You don't even know that it's negatively priming you at a pre-conscious processing level. Super scary, right? Super scary. Super scary. So the reality is that what negatively primes us is most of what is real life these days. And unless you consciously choose to do something that tips the scales, like watch a positive prime session for at least 3 minutes, you cannot overpower or overcome the negative priming of the environment that we live in. And from a neuroscience point of view, there's an enormous amount of research that's being done on epigenetics and the environments that we exist in, the societies that we exist in, the communities that we exist in, the organizations that we exist in. And it is truly shocking what is actually being discovered that we thought at some kind of superconscious level it was impacting us, but we didn't actually know that it is adversely impacting all of us. And of course, it's one of the reasons why we have the chronic disease issues that we do, right? So what we're up to here at Positive Prime is so much more than most people think. The mission that we're on is basically to give everybody this really incredible exercise or activity that they can do every single day for 3 minutes. That is literally a survival tactic. That's what it is. At its core, that's exactly what it is, and so much more. Alrighty, so what I do want to actually draw to your attention is the speed thing. So this is where we're at right now. At a slower speed, you feel like you can read the statements and you have more control over what you're actually having go into your other than consciousness, right? But at a higher speed, guess what? We're actually bypassing, we're actually asking, if you want to think of it like this, the guardians that are keeping you stuck, these guards that are maintaining the status quo and your limiting beliefs and the parts of you that are keeping your insecurity showing up, right? It's asking those guardians, please move aside from the mind and the heart and allow that which is much more nutritious, much more nurturing in, okay? That can only happen at speed. For those of you who've had any experience of hypnosis, Positive Prime can be considered a really creative visual hypnosis experience, right? So it's interesting, it cannot happen unless you watch it at speed. Now, if you actually have an issue, particularly, let's just say with seizures or epilepsy, absolutely do not watch at speed unless you've actually shown a neurologist what it is that you're looking at. I'll tell you the funny thing about my cardiac pacemaker and this dysautonomia investigation inside my own body. I actually was having an EEG only last week at the neurologist's. And I thought to myself, hey, you know what? I'm going to go back there and I'm going to ask them to redo that test whilst I'm watching a Positive Prime session. I've already had groups of people put on very fancy wearable health tech devices and watch what's happening with brain frequencies. And we know that when you watch Positive Prime sessions, more so for women than men, interestingly enough, but we don't yet know why from a scientific point of view, you have an easier time of dropping into gamma and dropping into theta and delta when you watch a Positive Prime session, and you do so very quickly. And I can't make that claim for every single one of you unless you put your own really fancy wearable health tech device on your head and you watch your own brains. But we've seen enough of it that gives us some confidence that will encourage us to move in this direction, because we've seen it repeatable in so many different kinds of people going through so many different life's challenges. It actually changes the way that their brains work, right? Altered states is the new sexy theme in lots of personal development and self-improvement and transformative technology arenas. Okay, so I'm going to go back and have a little quick read of the chat. Do you mind? If you have to leave, please do so. If you've got a question, please ask me. I'm here so that you can have this moment of, let's not call it speed dating, let's call it speed coaching. All right. So you know how in the technology world, by the way, when we create new aspects, new functions inside software, we call them sprints. They're all of these fancy jargon words that are in, the technology scene, and we call them sprints in the agile environment, blah, 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 whatever. But it did actually make me think that sometimes what I do is that I am in flow and I do this sprint coaching. It's like guidance or mentoring that's super sharp, very fast. So if you want that, you can unmute yourself and away we can go. Who has something that they think that would benefit the entire group, or maybe even just themselves? Do you know what? I've just read something about images of ice cream. So one of the interesting things about going unconscious was that I then went and had a gastroscopy and a laparoscopy and a this and a that over the last couple of years. And I've had up and down, like the endoscopy. And what we found was that in some very weird way, my ability to process dairy was actually turned off. I've been fine with dairy my entire life. I'm not allergic to it. It's not an autoimmune thing. Sometimes I have a reaction to dairy and sometimes I don't, which is actually a tragedy because I quite like camembert and Dauphinoise cheese. Anyway, so what happens when I see an ice cream now is that I actually imagine it's made on coconuts, or it's made in such a way that is actually to the benefit of my body. I get to choose the way that I perceive the images that I'm seeing. Okay, so, all right. Jean says to me, how would you explain positive prime in layman's terms to someone who has never heard of it? Great question. Really great question. It's the thing I do that interrupts my patterns that are disempowering. Now, if you're a fan of Anthony Robbins, and I went and did a whole heap of his retreats 20 years ago, he used to talk about vinyls. Most of us in this community are old enough to remember records, those black things that music played on, that we put onto a record player, right? Well, what most of us will also remember was that as children, we weren't allowed to scratch the vinyls because then it didn't play, right? It didn't actually play the track. Are you with me? Well, most of us have old-fashioned vinyls that play stories, patterns that no longer serve us. They may have a long time ago, but we've grown and developed. And what Positive Prime does is helps us to scratch those vinyls so that the old limiting beliefs can no longer play. And what it does is it literally lays down new, more empowering tracks on our own operating system, which could be we're all vinyls. I don't know if that helps, but that's actually one of the ways that I do describe what's actually happening. If you want to see the way that we talk about Positive Prime, really what's written on our homepage is a pretty good start. It's a pretty good start. I think that people who have never even contemplated personal development or self-improvement, or they've never been to any professional development where anybody's ever talked about emotional intelligence and how do you develop it, or any skills that relate to that which we acquire as we become leaders, I think that they would find it very difficult to really appreciate Positive Prime. Positive Prime for me is the most advanced way to bring to life a vision board for real people with real lives. See, most vision boards don't work because there aren't 1,000 images on most vision boards. So you can't overpower the 50,000 repetitive negative thoughts that you have every single day, right? Most vision boards do not include photographs of yourself. So you're creating visions for other people. That's a bit naff, isn't it? Not a lot of people have been taught that when you create a Positive Prime session, you absolutely need to upload your own photographs of yourself. And that's because you need to integrate this new content into your own identity. And the only way that you can do that is to have you wrapped, integrated inside the content. What does Linda say? Positive Prime writes over our negative beliefs with positive ones in our unconscious mind. We actually, it's now the time. Stay if you're interested in me explaining this. Conscious, subconscious, other than conscious, unconscious, superconscious. Okay, so imagine there is an iceberg and the iceberg is in a giant swimming pool. And imagine this iceberg actually looks like a traditional iceberg. So it's kind of like white and blue. And blue, sometimes we feel is a bit negative, you know, when someone's feeling blue. Well, that's actually pretty much what society is doing right now. Imagine that you're the iceberg. And interestingly enough, most people have seen these images where the conscious mind is the bit above the waterline, the bit that you can see. And they know that in icebergs, the much more volumetric weight, the vastness of an iceberg is actually below the waterline. And that iceberg, interestingly enough, people actually often see these images with these diagrams and they label the bit underneath the subconscious, right? I was one of the first people about, gosh, 15 years ago in a keynote speech, and then maybe even 10 years ago, and I used to talk about this a lot. And what's the role of the ocean in which the iceberg is bobbing around? So back to you're inside a swimming pool. Now, if I pour an enormous amount of pink food dye into the water, what do you think happens to that iceberg or snow cone? It becomes pink positive. It becomes vibrant. It becomes brighter. All righty. The ocean is where transformation actually happens. Deepak Chopra does call about it being in the gap. When people are meditating, they're often trying to hear source or guidance or have really these messages from the quantum field influence them and the way that they're acting and behaving. And so interestingly enough, a positive prime session when watched at speed, the content is actually, let's call it impressed upon the ocean. The ocean becomes this pink positive. It's like a positive prime session is the pink food dye, and it literally then seeps into the conscious and the subconscious. When I went unconscious, and there are some people who do psychedelics now so that they can access that state. And what I can tell you is that state is extraordinary, but I sure as hell don't need illicit drugs to get there. And I'm not sure that we as human beings were intended to access that state. And sometimes if you access that state, you don't come back. In fact, the last time, just before my cardiac pacemaker was implanted, my heart had actually stopped for over 20 seconds. And if you kind of Google that, you'll find that beyond 10 seconds, you're actually clinically dead. And so then things start to go really wrong because you don't have perfusion, i.e. you don't have oxygenated, nutrient-rich blood going to the other organs in your body and actually keeping alive all the systems of your body. And so, yes, there can be permanent, irreversible damage to your liver and your kidneys and your digestive system and your diaphragm and your lungs and everything else, right? Anyway, I am perfectly, fabulously gorgeous. I've healed completely and thoroughly. And I absolutely believe it's because of Positive Prime. And so do actually the specialists that I've been consulting with over the last year on my recovery. What I can tell you about the unconscious state is that for those of us who've had near-death experiences, there definitely for me was this knowing I am loved, loving and lovable. And so are all of us, and that we are actually angelic beings in human bodies. And we're all here to actually contribute to others. We're all here to serve. We're all here to grow. If we're not growing, we're in atrophy. If a tree or a plant is not growing, it's dying, right? We can be in hibernation. What's that all about? Huh? So we could get super philosophical here and we could go down a rabbit hole if you like. But the point is that change needs to occur in the ocean, in the quantum field, in order for the change to be rapid and enduring of your conscious and subconscious. And so Positive Prime works by planting seeds that you want watered in your other than consciousness, right? Which is what people like Dr. Paul Shearley refer to as the space between matter in the quantum field. It's like the ocean is made up of these particles of water, but what's in between those particles? And science is actually now starting to understand space and time. And we need a way to flood ourselves so that all that goodness then seeps into our other than consciousness, our superconscious and our unconscious. Alrighty, did that help? Did that help? Marie is actually asking me an awesome question. She is a hypnotherapist. We actually have quite a few hypnotherapists in our professional leaders program, Marie. And you're looking at Positive Prime in addition to the treatments for your clients or your patients. Would it be more effective with a virtual reality headset? High five. Guess what? We actually have peak performance coaches who are part of Jamie Wheel's tribe. You know, I'm sure you know the Flow Genome Project. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But anyway, there are a whole crew of people out there who watch Positive Prime through Google Chrome inside their Oculus Rift and have an immersive experience. And absolutely, we work with a couple of peak performance coaches, particularly in elite athletes themes, who do exactly that. They view Positive Prime sessions inside a virtual reality headset. Good quality virtual reality headsets aren't yet at a price that most consumers the world over can actually afford to own. We are developing, we actually have a roadmap into virtual reality with artificial intelligence, but you'll see some of that start to get unveiled within the next year or so. And you've also asked that you can add 4 people to a subscription. How do you do that? Awesome question. Should I go and actually quickly share the screen? We haven't had time to explain everything. Perfect. Alrighty, so let's just say I want to get out of here. I just want to stop it. I can go back to the dashboard and I can say, look, I feel better. Over here, at the top right-hand corner, can you see that there's actually invites, settings, session history, tutorial, and log out? Can you see that? You go to invites and every single one of our paying subscribers can invite up to 4 people. Now listen in. You can extend an invitation and somebody has to take advantage of that within 2 weeks. Otherwise, the actual link expires. Well, let's just say you've got team members and you want to show Positive Prime and give them an experience for 2 weeks, and then you want them to upgrade to their own account. And you can actually have them connected to you, right? But let me actually see this. You can retract an invite from somebody. Let's just say you're actually only inviting them to, you're the parent, they're the child in this relationship in this software. So you're inviting them, you could give them a period of time, so long as you manage people's expectations and you communicate with them. And I would say to one of my clients, I really, really, really want you to actually experience the power of Positive Prime over the next month. And so what I'd love for you to do is actually dive in. You could then encourage them to go and upgrade their own account. When they do that, they'll actually drop off your invite list. Let's just say you extend an invite to somebody and they're not committed to their transformational journey. They're actually not really wanting the changes that they claim that they may want. You can retract an invite as well. You can literally retract an invite. If you want somebody that you've invited to upgrade, absolutely go over here and you can get them to upgrade. All perfect. Did that make sense? We have now spent a lot longer on this class than I thought that we were going to. We're up to the hour. Any questions? Unmute yourself and come out and ask. All right, I'll see a comment from Jean. Let me address that. She actually says that she likes to jump to different sessions from day to day, depending upon what her needs are. Is there a preferred way to choose which session to watch? This is the way that I do. I try to connect to source. And so that is, I will breathe deeply. I will then imagine that my body is connected by invisible energetic threads to the core of Mother Earth. And I actually imagine that there is this like spotlight. Imagine a huge, I think of those laser lights at those rock concerts from the stage out into the audience. So imagine one of those is coming out of my head and up into the sky, the night sky. And I'm now connected to the infinite. And then I'll say, guide me to a session that I need to watch today. I have a faith, and I also do ask. So sometimes in my prayers, I'll say, please know that I appreciate when I see what I need to see, hear what it is that I need to hear, and I'm inspired to do what it is that I need to do. And sometimes I don't like what I hear, I don't like what I see, but I know that I must. And I need you to know that I am very appreciative of seeing what I must see, doing what I must do, knowing what I must know, and hearing what I must hear. And interestingly enough, when I remember to do that, and maybe I'll have to do that a couple of times a day, particularly if I'm dealing with a challenge and I want a more elegant solution. And if there are decisions that I have to make that are tough, then I'm dropping into this energy that is this gratitude for the fact that there is so much that I've seen that I haven't wanted to see, but actually it's been in my best interest that I've seen it. There's so much that I've heard that I haven't really wanted to hear, but it was really in my best interest for my higher self to actually hear that. Perfect. There is some awesome contributions by the people in the community in this chat. I love it that you all show up here. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I love it that you're all here to encourage and support each other. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, Carol, we're such on the same page. Can you believe you just put into the chat? This has been great as a coaching and encouragement session to drive consistency into the daily viewing. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I love hearing how people are actually using Positive Prime. I love encouraging you all to use it more often. And just before we go, I actually watch a Positive Prime session oftentimes a day. Before I dive into a meeting that I know is going to be intense, I definitely watch it first thing in the morning. I'll tell you why. I've uploaded so many photographs of the life that I truly am aspiring to live. And I get glimpses of that life, and I get moments already where I'm actually living that life. And I'm a little bit of a control freak, A-type personality, and I like being the master for myself over my life's experiences and my life's reactions. And if I watch one of my really heavily personalized Positive Prime sessions in the morning, and I watch super mixes, we need a whole nother session. In fact, there are some recordings of other sessions that I've done. I would encourage you to go back and watch those recordings. I've actually spent quite a lot of time talking about super mixes. So, you know what? I know that I am worthy and deserving of experiencing the life that is going to be more meaningful to me. And given that I've had my heart stop completely 6 times in the last couple of years, I actually know how precious life is, and I know how lucky it is that I'm alive. And so I know that I am worthy and deserving of living the life that I am choosing to create and live into. And so when I watch that positive prime session in the morning, what it does is it literally conditions me for the day. So I'm living into the creation of the life that I really love living. And every single day, there are signs that I'm on the right track. And it's really interesting because sometimes I'm super busy, like I've woken up late and I've got to rush to a meeting here on Zoom or whatever. Or, you know, we have my spouse's elderly father living with us. So there might be a little emergency that we've got to take care of. Or for 1,000 other reasons, there's something else going on with me, and I've called an ambulance at 3 o'clock in the morning and I'm in the hospital. And so no, I'm not watching my positive prime session on my laptop, you know, in my bed while I'm drinking a cup of tea. Whatever the reason, sometimes I don't watch it. And, you know, they're the days that don't go well. They're the days that could have gone better. They're the days when there are little aspects of the day that literally trip me up. And sometimes I fall and graze my knees. I'm talking metaphorically, right? I'm talking energetically. And every single day is so precious. It's so precious. None of us have enough time on this planet. None of us, right? And so in order for me to make the most of every day, I must be positively primed. Now, I understand the science, and I'm going to invite you to really dive deep into the science, okay? You do that, and I promise you, you're actually going to, you're going to get more out of this experience. Yeah, you just are. Jean says she loves the super mixes. So do I. I mean, I'm the kind of person who stacks all the habits because there's this exponential effect. So, you know, sometimes I'll be watching positive prime sessions as I jump on my rebounder, or I'll be watching positive prime session in one Google tab, and in another tab, I've got 3 or 4 other audio tracks playing on top of each other. If any of you have ever listened to one of Dr. Paul Shealy's Paraliminals, you'll know that there's this hypnosis track in the left ear when you're in stereo headphones, and a hypnosis script, completely different, another track in the right ear. And what actually happens is as they go in, your brain just goes and gives up, surrendering and letting go. We could spend a whole hour just on talking about surrendering and letting go. And how, given modern technology and given positive prime, does that happen? There is actually an aspect to our formula that actually causes that to happen. It causes your brain to go into a state of surrendering and letting go. Anyway, so super mixes allow me to watch several sessions simultaneously, mixed and merged with each other, and truly personalized. They're amplified and on speed. We're accelerated. And now we're talking, right? And now we're talking. Catherine, thank you. Yes, surrendering and letting go is a great topic. I've actually talked about that in some other of my coaching sessions like this. Letting go is actually about faith. It's about confidence. It's about trust. And on that note, there is actually a positive prime session on surrendering and letting go. So go into the search and just put surrender and see what shows up. Beautiful. If you knew that you were going to be successful, how would you be? Let's finish on that note. If you knew you were going to be successful, how would you be? And allow that beingness, you being that way, allow that to be you today. Mwah. Love you all, and I will see you on the next beautiful gathering like this. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Someone's just answered there. Relaxed, confident, serene. So true. Relaxed, confident, and serene. So be today more relaxed, confident, and serene. Mwah. Ciao.